Ekam aksharam hrudi nirantaram bhasate swayam likyate katham. हृदय कुहर मध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वम् चिन्वता मज्जता भवन चलन आत्मनिष्ठो देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तत भावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः ओहं भावयुतः कुतो वरधिया दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं Namo Ramana. In this, our Thursday Satsang from Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, it has been our practice to read verses from Guruvachaka Kovai selected for us. We read 2 verses. Each verse reading is followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that is followed by a practice session of self-enquiry for 10 minutes duration. After these 2 segments of verse reading, meditation on the meaning, and practice of self-attention are completed, there will be summing up remarks by our own Venkatesh Deshpande ji, today from Rishikesh, and that shall be followed by an offering of the Sri Ramanacentre, chanted by Vaibhavji and Prarthnama. The floral offering team is not present today, so we'll be offering ourselves by doing self-enquiry when the chanting is going on, by asking the question, who is listening? We begin this evening satsang with the first of the two verses selected for us, verse number 230. The other verse is 724. We start the evening satsang by taking the first verse, 230. We find this in the first of the three segments, investigation into truth. The verse is under the subheading Kaya Kalpa. The other two major segments, apart from investigation into truth, are meditation on the truth and experience of the truth. These are the three segments into which the work is divided. We get this verse 230 in investigation into truth, Kaya Kalpa. There is a note as to what is Kaya Kalpa. Kaya Kalpa is medicine that is used to strengthen the body and prolong its life. The first verse in this section alludes to the Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, that are deemed to be the four legitimate goals or attainments of human life. Dharma is performance of social duties in an ethical way. Artha is the acquisition of wealth through righteous means. Kama is the happiness derived from sensual enjoyments. Moksha, liberation, is the natural state of abiding as the self. The Purusharthas are also mentioned and commented on in verse 8. There the commentary alludes to Thiruvalluvar and Avayar and all that. We go into verse 230 with this introduction. Verse 230 is like this. Calling even attainments of Dharma, Artha and Kama, which suffer from the defect of appearing and disappearing in an illusory way. Everlasting is a polite attribution, a superimposition. Calling even the attainments of Dharma, Artha and Kama is a polite attribution. Calling them everlasting is a polite attribution, a superimposition. Hard to attain liberation, the fourth Purushartha or Moksha, whose nature is the excellent true Atmajnana, which is the goal that should be attained by everyone, is alone the everlasting attainment. Muruganar has a note in support for us. Even Dharma and not just Artha and Kama is exhausted through experiencing it. So Artha and Kama are definitely exhausted by experiencing them. Even Dharma is exhausted, says, by experiencing it. In complete contrast, the experience of Atmajnana waxes more and more without any boundary. Since liberation, whose form is Atmajnana, is alone permanent, it is termed as true. There is a quote from Tirukkovayar. It is as if the divine nature of the unique Lord of Thillai's golden hall, he who remains unknown even to those who have known him, even if that divine nature were clearly manifest in the bosom of this slender-waisted one, whose lips are red like Kovai food. For though I have embraced her, each time I embrace her once more, bliss waxes more and more, fresh as before, like the loins of her in whose curling tresses a fragrance lingers. Atmajnana is not only the means for liberation during the stage of practice, but also the very nature of liberation in the state of attainment. So, the Kaya Kalpa is sidestepped very adroitly by taking the attention away from the physical body. It is obviously foolish to try to extend the life in the physical body, which is made of atoms which are driven by knowledge contained in DNA or higher centers. Therefore, there is no point in those constantly flux, those atoms which are in a constant flux. It is found that 7% of our body is replaced every day in the water, air, and the solid foods we consume. 7% of body weight is changed, and within 2 weeks, 98% of the body is new atoms. So where is the point in? So the verses don't even discuss that. The traditional Kaya Kalpa of trying to extend the sensory body limitlessly, it doesn't even try that. But it refers to the subtler bodies of Dharma, Artha, Kama. These bodies are supposed to have extended life. Like when you have the ways in which you can understand the other in a relationship, then that is called as Kama. In a place, Avayar says that Kama, it is not merely the sensory happiness referred here. It is the happiness derived in the understanding in a relationship. It doesn't even mean between husband and wife. It could be between two friends. But that is actually in the understanding, there is a lot of happiness. Like when two people understand their differences and don't make much about their differences, and the understanding is the common factor, there is a lot of happiness. But does that exist in deep sleep? No, it does not exist in deep sleep. And can it be retained in that deep sleep state? No, it cannot be retained in the deep sleep. So gone. What about Artha, the wealth? It could be the Artha in the terms of the wealth, that is physical wealth in terms of property, money. It could be even the wealth of education, that wealth of knowledge you have. Can we carry it? Can the happiness of having knowledge in the form of accumulated objective knowledge, or having the knowledge that you are a wealthy person, can that be called everlasting? How can it be everlasting when you cannot remember it in deep sleep? And I have earlier referred to an incident where I was traveling from Trichy to Bangalore. I was in the upper berth in the second class, and a family who had to come in an emergency to Bangalore had entered that compartment in E Road about 2 o'clock in the morning. And a 60-65-year-old person was behaving quite incoherently, can't explain. He was removing his dhoti, and when he was being covered up, he was preventing them. And I asked the son who was sitting by his side what had happened. He said that gentleman was an engineer who knew 7 languages and had a very great and successful career. But 2 days of brain fever and all that knowledge is gone. He doesn't know what a checkbook is or what a pen is. And the very persons who were revering him, they were standing quite far away from him, not wanting to associate. But that, what about all that knowledge and the wealth? Can it stand when that laser of attention is not allowed to access the hard disk of memory by God, by the Supreme One? Obviously not. So how that can be called everlasting? That wealth. So dharma, the artha is out of the way, the kama is out of the way. What about dharma? That is why in this one, even dharma says, even dharma, and the highest of dharmis we can think of is Karna. And Karna was lying there, having been hit by a very great astra, having tried to lift his chariot from the mire, and his charioteer, who was offended, having run away, he couldn't lift it. And when Arjuna hits, he is mortally wounded, so-called mortally. But all the arrows subsequently are falling uselessly. In the movie that we see, it is shown as though they are becoming garlands for him. And they are not even touching him. And when Sri Krishna is asked by Arjuna, what is happening? I am sending all these arrows and they are not even touching him. And Krishna says, what to do? All the dharma he has done, he is standing by him. The Dharma Devata is standing. Can't you see her? And till she is there, you cannot touch him. You cannot touch his mortal body. But dharma is also capable of being exhausted by experiencing, says the poet for this book, the author Muruganar. And it is revealed by Sri Krishna there. He takes the role of a Brahmin and goes and asks for a donation. And Karna says, what can I give now? I have given away my Kavacha Kundala to somebody who came and asked for it. I am lying down here in the field and you are asking it. I would just wish I have something to give you and I am feeling so bad. Then Sri Krishna says, no, you don't know. You have got so much accumulated dharma. The punyas that are there. Oh, I have that. And you can see them. You can see them. And Krishna says, yes, they are so many in number and I can see them. You can give them all to me. Oh, what better thing I could have than to give this all to you? And he gives it. That means the experiencer gives away all the experiences to the Supreme. Says that. And that allows his mortal body also to fall away. But the point there is that dharma is also exhausted. Though he himself doesn't experience there, can be exhausted by, suppose he had wanted to experience all those punyas, he could have experienced them and finished them. Or seeing that to experience them, he has to be bound. He can give it away. I know of a friend who has done more than 500 Girivalams. And after the 500th or so, sometime later, he was asked by his Ishta Devata, why don't you give away all these punyas to me? And he gives away all the 500 Girivalams. It belongs to you only. So instead of experiencing the punya, which will need a body and a bound state, you can hand it over. That means this dharma is also exhaustible. So it is not eternal. So what is really eternal? What is the real happiness without a mixture of sorrow? Because dharma also to experience the second AC or whatever, what you call as punya, to experience that, you have to bear with some other miseries. So what is this unmixed happiness? It is only moksha that is untainted by any form of misery. So out of all these four, what is the real kaya kalpa? What is that body which is eternal? Not dharma, not artha, not kama, not moksha, not definitely the sensory body, but only the self-attention, the natural self-attention that I am that I am, I, where the self is present without the division as subject and object. That alone can be called as eternal. Even that eternal is not right there because there is no concept of time in that self. It is beyond time. But for reference of the language of time, we say the self alone is eternal. Even the body of dharma, the subtle body of artha kama, They are all perishable. They are all not eternal, let alone the sensory body. So let us turn our attention back inward, away from the sensory body, away from the need to accumulate dharma, artha, or kama, and turn it to moksha by asking, for whom is this thought? The thought is for me, because thought can relate to any of these bodies. For whom is this thought? This thought is for me. Who am I? Turns that attention to its own ever present nature. Till that becomes natural, one should practice to eliminate the proclivities to go to the other bodies. Once the proclivities are exhausted, then one naturally abides in the Spurana as I. With Bhagavan Sigmund's grace, let us sit in practice for 10 minutes. Ujjwalji will be able to help us out. Thank you so much.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. We go on to the second verse selected for us, 724. 724. We find this in the second segment, meditation on the truth. The subheading is Bhakti and Vichara. Bhakti and Vichara. 724. It is only through the divine grace bestowed by Ishvara, he who abides as the soul of the soul and who is the reality of the jiva, that samadhi, the state of abiding in the heart, is attained as the culmination of the practice of the vichara that bestows the much desired true jnana. It is only through the divine grace bestowed by Ishvara, he who abides as the soul of the soul and who is the reality of the jiva, that samadhi, the state of abiding in the heart, is attained as the culmination of practice of the vichara that bestows the much desired true jnana. Now, the jnana is bandied about by intellectuals as something that has no connection with bhakti, no understanding of bhakti. Let everybody go to the dogs, I will be liberated, is the feeling of such ones, that there is no connection between the liberation and the liberation of the individual and the existence of the rest, and the adhara for the existence of the rest and the individual, called the Ishvara. What we have to understand is that so far as we are a body, the Supreme also has a body. Only when we are willing to pay attention to our existence beyond name and form in self-attention, are we worshipping the Supreme also without? But so far as we are interested in money, in some continued sensory body health, in one aspect of its illness being cleared, in any one aspect in the sensory world, if we are interested, then Ishvara is a reality. That, and only the Atmajnani can affirm that without Ishvara, the one who has aggregated these whole parts, there is no way the universe can stand in the way it is standing today. Just like our consciousness, the Jiva consciousness, is having this ability to aggregate the healthy parts of the body, the healthy parts of the breath, the healthy parts of the mind, intellect, and say this is I. And as soon as some part of it becomes unhealthy, we want to dissociate from that. Oh, this is not I. Somehow we want to get rid of that part. It could be ill health of the sensory body. It could be some aspect of breath which is not happening properly. Or it could be some mental content which we say, oh, this should not have been there. We don't want to identify with that. But the ego seems to have this ability somehow of aggregating what it wants and the ability to disaggregate from what it doesn't want. Pindam mevi anada. Then what is it that holds all these component parts of the universe together? There is a Brahmandam mevi anada. There is a consciousness which is able to aggregate all this together. And so far as you identify yourself as that consciousness, the conditioned existence which has aggregated this body, you are subject to being a part of a larger consciousness which has aggregated many more parts. And that consciousness, Manigalil Saradana, Uyurdurum Nana, Madanturum, Oruvanai, Maruvinai Nida. It is the Sat Chitta, the existence consciousness, the power of self-attention, in which the whole universe stands united. So far as you consider yourself to be a separate individual, you will be subject to the pressures from the collective, which is all collected together along with you by that one power. That is why it is said that so far as you consider yourself a jiva, the turn towards moksha, away from even dharma, artha and kama, that turn has to be attributed to Ishvara. That without his grace, you couldn't have had the friend who has put you to meditation. You couldn't have gone to that place where discussion of satsang was taking place. It couldn't have been possible. So far as you identify yourself with the jiva, then it is by Ishvara's grace that even a beginning is made towards the ultimate truth. Forget about reaching the truth. Definitely the sadhana and reaching the truth has to be the samadhi sthiti which is referred here, which is abidance in the heart. So far as we want to tell the story in terms of the jiva, the pilgrim moving towards the self, there is no way one can give that account without the grace of Ishvara. Absolutely not possible. So that is why it is said, it is by Ishvara's grace, in whatever way you think. Between two thoughts, there are so many gaps, so many ways the jiva could have gone on to something else, and there are enough proofs for that. If 20 years somebody has held Atma Uchara, how can it be done without grace? Because between two thoughts, there are so many other possibilities which could have attracted the jiva and taken him off for lifetimes. Forget about years. So if somebody has had sustained practice of Atma Uchara, which alone can, or some sadhana, which alone can lead to the samadhi sthiti, there is absolutely no way that that can be reasoned out, bereft of the Ishvara's grace, the grace of the collective. Unless you understand that you are standing on the shoulders of so many, then alone you will be able to keep what you are having. That what you are having is commonly available to everyone. Then alone you can effortlessly hold it. When it is as easy as the breath, when you understand moksha is provided there by Ishvara Anugraha itself is moksha, then alone you can abide effortlessly in it. How can you abide effortlessly in it if you feel it is your possession? Absolutely not possible. The jiva has to put effort. Somehow I have to hold to samadhi. Whereas if that samadhi is what there is, then where is the need to hold? All one has to do is let go of all hold. Then what exists is samadhi. So how, as the jiva bhava, how this even could have been started? It's not possible. That is why in Bhagavad Gita also it is said, those who reach real jnana, they will know that that has been attained purely by Ishvara's grace. Because Ishvara's reality is also jnana. But that doesn't mean one can throw away the Ishvara as non-existent and go to atheism as soon as one reaches the self. They will be the last people, because they will know for even going from LKG to UKG, you need grace, which is far in the area of the bound knowledge, the knowledge, wealth of knowledge, worldly knowledge. From LKG to UKG you go and you have been promoted. That requires Ishvara's grace. Without that, it's not possible. The first meditations we do on the truth, it requires Ishvara's grace. So many years of tapas of so many ancestors are all behind, on the shoulders of which we stand. When we understand this, there is humility. There is an effortless abidance in what is available to everyone. Our very effort is the one which separates us from that grace. So the letting go of the individuality, the separateness, it allows us to relax and rest in the Atma Jnana. But the one resting in the Atma Jnana as Atma Jnana will definitely know that the journey from Jivatva could have been started only by Ishvara's grace. would have been continued and sustained only by Ishvara's grace, would have been completed only by Ishvara's grace. So that Ishvara's grace is another name for Atmajnana. But only in Atmajnana, we don't divide the consciousness as Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. So even atheists can be supported by the one, even atheists can be supported by ones in Atmajnana. They can say, why does it matter whether you believe there is a God or not? Do you not believe you exist? Go to the source of that existence. That is enough. Because there will be some atheists who will sincerely regard the welfare of the world or the welfare of the universe as one of their objectives. When such people are there who have come to Bhagavan, Bhagavan has supported them. That forget whether you believe in God's existence or not. Don't worry. Don't you exist? See the truth of your existence. That is enough. Bhagavan would know that one who comes to Atmajnana through self-enquiry will revere the Bhakti Marga, will revere every devotee who is doing even one Shivanama, will revere every devotee who is taking one step towards a temple, because that is far, 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 far better than something else which goes towards the Dharma, Artha, and Kama. So, the one who is in Atmajnana will revere the other parts of the Karma Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, and the Yoga, the Raja Yoga. That is the understanding that when you come to the self, that Ishvara is revered, but is now, it is the responsibility of the Atmajnani to not even call him Ishvara. His reality is not the ability to do the 5 tasks of creation, maintenance, destruction, veiling, and moksha. No. His task is not even to create a sannidhi in which creation goes on. Not even that. His reality is being the self. But the moment one comes to this dream of creation, there is immediately respect for the original dreamer, the original one who has dreamed up this cosmos, the Ishvara, without whose grace, Atmauchara wouldn't have come to the Jiva. With Bhagavan's immense grace, as we constantly mention in any Advaitic teaching also, with Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in Atmauchara for 10 minutes. Ujjwalji, you will help us out again. Thank you.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. I request Venkatesh ji to give us the summing up remarks. Sorry, sir, I have taken much of your time. Namo Ramana, sir.
Sorry, I said it was very interesting. Thank you. Sorry, I was on on mute. I didn't realize. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat, Parabrahma, Tasmai, Shri Guruve Namah. Yadamulam Guru Murti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam, Mokshamulam Gurur Kripa. Namo Ramana. So let us go through a little bit of a Q&A session, because it's always good to question, like Bhagwan always says, for whom? So why do we pray to Bhagwan? Let's try to understand that. We, all of us, go to Tiruvannamalai, or we pray, have a puja room, we do sing Aksharamanamala, do this, do that. Why do we pray for Bhagwan? Does he, the 4 points that we talked about, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. At a core level, do we say, hey God, Bhagwan, make me do only the right things? No, we don't do that. We don't say that I want to be always doing the right things. I want to follow dharma. When we go to say to Tiruvannamalai, what happens? You become quiet. You just don't. I've seen people doing going around the samadhi saying nothing. They are just keeping their mouth shut and going around. So what happened to dharma, artha, kama, and moksha? So artha, money, very few people know. Bhagwan, you look at Bhagwan himself. He just went on doing his duty. If somebody was distracted by seeing him, he said, "You please continue doing your work. I am doing my work." So he never said that you should do like this, you should not do, this is not right. Even in sadhana also, he never said, oh, this is what you're doing is not right. He'd say, continue doing whatever you're doing, it's right. He would never say, no, this is not right. So people had made, people make money in different ways, enjoy life in different ways. He never commented on any of those things. He just sat quietly. Now, the next question comes, so why do we want moksha at all? See, we have to understand this very clearly. Self is already liberated. If you think you're going to liberate, if you're going to like bring out a bird from the cage and throw it out of the cage and make it fly over, no, we are all sadly mistaken. That's not going to happen, because the self is already liberated. It has always been there. It is currently now there, and it's always will be there, always liberated. So what is this? This is like, I was just thinking, what it is similar to? It's like in our Ramanacentre, we have these dramas. In these dramas, what happens? Sometimes there are 3 screens. One screen behind in front, then the middle screen, there's last screen, and there's something at the back. So the first act is going on in front of the first screen. People are interested, not to such a great extent. They're wondering what is behind that first screen. Let them go to the behind the first screen. Then they come to behind the first screen. Their interest goes up a little bit more, because they seem to correlate the whole thing. But still, they are inquisitive to know, hey, what's behind the whole stage looks to be very big. So there may be more screens. So they watch that, but still they're inquisitive to know what's behind that. Then you come to the third stage. Oh, wow, is this the last screen? or is there something more? But when I look at the storyline, there must be something more. Then they wait, and then they finally the last screen opens. Hey, everybody starts clapping. Oh yeah, this is what we were looking for. This is what. So the point really is that this drama is unfolding in our lives also. So the self is already liberated, right? Now we have these screens in front of us, which could be dharma, it could be artha, it could be kama, it could be moksha, whatever it is. These screens are slowly unfolding. One unfolds and we clap and we feel good about it. But then we think, oh yes, I think we have dealt enough with dharma. But let me linger in this area some more. And then after artha, like that, kama, and then finally we come to moksha. It says, okay, we got moksha. I think the last screen is open, but what am I getting in this finally, this whole thing? That's very important. I think that's the question we need to ask. With the manana that all need to do is what is this? We are looking for perennial happiness. You've seen that well next to Bhagwan's shrine in Tiruvannamalai. It's a well which has perennial water. It means if there's no water anywhere else, there'll be water in that gel, in that well. So it's like that. It'll never dry. So similarly, this happiness, it goes on waxing. Waxing means it just goes on increasing and increasing. It doesn't wane. Wane means it goes down and down. Nothing. It just goes on increasing. The happiness. Why? Because this initial thing you are caught up in this little body, thinking you are this body-mind complex, suddenly starts growing, and you think, oh, I was just this little fellow, and it's like that pot which thing you think that there is the space in the pot, but the pot breaks. What happens to the space between inside and outside? There's no difference. So exactly the same thing what happens that when you start meditating doing self-inquiry, you realize that this it was a little dance and jig that you were doing in front of the screens, and everybody's thinking, oh great, Venkatesh is doing karma yoga, nishkama karma. He gets up every morning. He did this. These are all little jigs in front of the screens. From the last screen perspective, from the self perspective, these are all immaterial. It does not matter at all. But we think we're doing this. Why? Because it gives us a sense of happiness. It gives us a sense of belonging. So we have to understand this very clearly that Bhagwan was that last that Atma Jnana. Atma Jnana is what? Why Atma Jnana? Because it's perennial happiness, because there won't be any sorrow at all, and not even a speck of sorrow will be there. And perennial means what? It just does not decrease. It's like, for infinity, if you remove infinity, what will remain will also be infinity only. So that's what the great ones are telling us through these two shlokas, and that we are seeking perennial happiness, but our nature is perennial happiness. We've forgotten who we really are, and now we are trying to do this dance and jig around to say, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm trying to get to a perennial happiness. Who we really are, what we always are. So it's a funny situation, but we have to do this drama of life and finally understand that we were always that from the beginning. We were always that self, which is always liberated. So we continue to do this, but we have to be very firm in our belief that we are always liberated and we don't have to do anything to be that I am. You are always that I am, and you will always be that. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Namo.
Namo Ramana sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vaibhavji and Pratnama to help us with the chanting of Ashtotram. We can also self-observation by self-attention and offer ourselves by the quest, who is the listener. Namo Ramana sir.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितम् श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्विमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः। ॐ जगद्गीतावताराय नमः। ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः। ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातीताय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजितचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलऋद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिवृन्देन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋचान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ षोडादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शूद्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाह विवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः ऋन्निष्ठस्वकबीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकरात् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. Thank you, Vaibhavji and Pratnama. Thank you, Venkatesh ji. Thank you, Ujjwal ji, Revati ma.